Hey, I'm Georgia, and today I'm going to be making a giant slow stitch scrunchie. I got inspired for this project because I made a few other scrunchies for Christmas, and I just enjoyed the process, and it was nice and simple. I thought it might be a fun medium for slow stitching, so we're going to give it a shot. I'm using this, I think it was a skirt originally, but it's a waistband, so it's already sewn together in this really nice tube, which is perfect for a scrunchie. If you don't already have a handy dandy waistband ready to go, I'll link a scrunchie tutorial down below and you can assemble it yourself. You could also slow stitch onto the fabric before you go ahead and stitch it together into a tube, but I wanted to be able to sew over the seams and just work with it as more of a circular piece. So I like it this way. I'm using the bottle as just to stretch the fabric and make it kind of flat. I'll have to work on this in a couple of different stages because the bottle is not quite big enough to fit the entire thing. It's going to be a jumbo scrunchie. So these ones that I made earlier I cut them at 4 by 16 inches. And this is 8, it's 4 already folded, so 8 by 16. So it's gonna be sort of twice as wide. So for this project I have a bunch of strips. They're seams from old t-shirts. I have some just little patches. This was an old mask. And some odds and ends. This is actually what I modeled the entire color scheme off of, this little piece of yarn. I just loved the way, I don't know, just the way the colors flow together. This is an old gauge swatch I did for a pair of socks. It fits with the colors. This green ribbon leftover from Christmas. That's just a bit of purple cotton thread. And I think these were nylons. We'll see if I end up using them or not. I also collected some feathers out of my stash. This little ceramic turtle button and this charm. It's a teacup on a, what's it called, saucer. And I know it doesn't really match with feathers or turtles, but somehow in my brain it did. And I just really like it and it's cute. So we're gonna see if we can integrate it. I did my best to pick things that wouldn't snag on hair, because that would be important for a scrunchie. Color, I went with color rather than fiber for string yarn. This is a wool yarn, kind of scratchy but textured, and this is 100% cotton. I think I want to go whatever this way would be, long ways, with the strips and fairly evenly spaced. And then I think I'm just gonna stitch up the side here, but we'll see what happens. I'm just doing a really basic running stitch through here. The running stitch is a beautiful, simple stitch. That's the foundation for so much of slow stitching. It's one of my favorite stitches. You don't really have to think about it. The great thing about slow stitching is you just use any stitch that you want to use at the time. Coming up out of the fabric from underneath, going in through both layers. Usually you can just pick up the layers of fabric, come back up through the top, and then go back down. I'm not sure exactly why they called it the running stitch, but I think it's because you can do it so fast it's like you're running. So now I have some layers of fabric there. My needle is a bit too fat for this fabric, so it's going to be hard for me to pull it through. You'll notice I'm not pinning anything down. Sometimes I do if I don't want it to slip around. For this particular project, it doesn't matter to me exactly where the strips end up. It sort of adds to the joy of it. It does help to have your fabric stretched out like this so it doesn't slip around so much. Other ways to do this, depending on the shape of your fabric and the shape of your project, would be an embroidery hoop. I've shoved water bottles inside things before, as well as mugs. Some people use darning eggs. It's really whatever you have that gets your fabric to the right shape is awesome. I'm a big fan of using what you have, and I'm beginning to suspect that this project is going to look very Crayola-ish by the time I'm done. The colors are so bold, and these stitches are so big. I thought I was going to line them up evenly with each other, but now that I'm into it, I don't think so. This beautiful piece of yarn, I think I'm just going to go over it in sort of a cross stitch kind of a way to just pin it down without actually sewing through it. Pick up some fabric, go over top, pick up some more fabric, hold it down. Yeah, it's working beautifully. Pick up a little fabric, over the top. This would work with anything you wanted to attach to the fabric that you didn't want to or couldn't sew through. This yarn is just a tiny bit of yarn left from, I think I made mason jar cozies with it. I can't remember who made it. I'll have to look. I think it's Malabrigo, but it's this 100% merino yarn, and some of it just reminded me of the most beautiful tropical fish. I don't want to put this button too far down near the seam because this is going to be the seam. And if I put it on the seam, we're going to have trouble folding it over. So you want to remember, just like any kind of sewing, that you're going to need that seam allowance. Hee hee, I love this button. Let's go with an actual cross stitch. Cross stitch is a really nice basic shape you can make. You reposition your needle at the back. So I would come from underneath, come out, go over, so I'm making one branch of the cross there, and then go back underneath, and then I need to reposition my needle so that it comes out to form another cross, the other side of the cross. So I'm gonna put it down the back, across, and then back up and over. To make the next one, same thing, I'm gonna position it at the back to where I want it to be, come out, over, stitch. Some people make whole patterns with cross stitch. Right, just gonna do a little running stitch down here along what was the seam, hoping that everyone had a really great Christmas. Both my siblings came for dinner with their husbands, so that was just lovely to see them. They ended up having to come a couple days early, so we did Christmas on the 23rd and the 24th, which actually was amazing because I had to go to the grocery store or the dollar store, I can't remember which, on Christmas Day. And it was so crazy with people trying to buy last minute things, and I was just so grateful we had it. Well, that everything was over by then for us. We were just relaxing and enjoying the day. Ended up going for a run with my dad. It was so snowy and wet, but so fun. I don't know who will be brave enough to wear this in their hair, but I'm kind of liking it. Switching my stitch type to a Whipstitch. sewing the teacup on is going to be a little bit like sewing on a button. I'm going to anchor the thread, come up and around through the handle. And then we're just going to do that a few times until it feels secure. And I do want it to flop around some, because this is for a hairpiece. Once it feels secure, I'm going to anchor the thread again on the other side. This is super fun, but I can't imagine ever wearing it in my hair. So instead of finishing it as a scrunchie, I think I'm going to stop there and keep it to use in a future piece. I don't really have a vision for what that future piece might be just yet, but that's one of the awesome things I think about textile art is as you make something, it can take on a life of its own and become something else later. So I will definitely make whatever I decide to do with it in future, we'll make a video about it and post it. So please subscribe if you would like to see the continuing saga of the slow stitch scrunchie thing.